can't move these days without hearing something else about Chinese cars, right? How sales are soaring, how they're cracking the top 10, how they're a bargain hunter's dream come true. But what you don't hear all that often is what they really like to live with, how all that fancy jewelry and cabin technology really holds up after some hard living. Until now, that is. Welcome to another CarsGuide long-term goodbye, this time to this, the Haval Jolion Luxe. So how did it hold up? What did Poppy think of it? All that's coming up. Now, as usual, this is going to be a deep dive like few others. We're going to be covering everything here, from pricing and features to design, practicality, what's under the bonnet, efficiency, safety, ownership, and of course, what it's like to drive. We'll even pop the time codes up for you, so you can skip ahead at any moment you choose. Now, before we get started, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss a video, and don't forget to bookmark carsguide.com.au so you can always get your motoring fix. Got it? Right, let's get started. If value is your driving factor when purchasing a new car, you will find plenty of it in the Jolion family. Our model, the Luxe, sits above the Premium and below the Ultra, placing it smack bang in the middle of the Jolion range. It's yours for $29,990 drive away, and you get plenty of stuff for your money. While even the Premium trim gives you plenty of fancy stuff, like 17-inch alloy wheels or the big 10.25-inch screen that gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, the Luxe trim adds even cooler stuff like LED headlights and DRLs, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, leather-look seats that are heated in the front, dual-zone aircon controlled digitally, a 7-inch digital instrument display, and a pretty good 6-speaker sound system. In fact, the only things the Ultra model adds on top are bigger 18-inch alloy wheels, a bigger infotainment screen, wireless charging, and a sunroof. I found the Jolion to be a little polarizing in the looks department. Some love the bling-filled front end, some don't. Me, I'm probably somewhere in the middle. What I do love though are these 17-inch alloy wheels, although I do wish they filled the arches a little bit more. And while I can take or leave the shiny stuff up front, I do like the way these light clusters bleed into the bodywork. Now that said, caught at the wrong angle, it can look a little slab-sided, like most of the design work is being concentrated right up the front. What I do like though is that it looks and feels bigger than a small SUV. In fact, it looks like it's knocking on the door of the mid-size families. Considering the price point, the cabin's actually a really nice place to spend time. There's quite a clever mix of materials and textures in the cabin. The seats are big, comfortable, and heated, and most importantly, can be easily wiped down and cleaned. And there's a ton of tech in the cabin as well. But one of the little design quirks that I do love is this kind of hidden arrangement for your iPhone cable. So it plugs into the bottom, is fed through a little hole here, and then your phone sits nice and neatly in the center console. It's a tiny thing, sure, but it's one that I've really liked. There are, however, a few quirks that I'm not so fond of. So one example of form over function is this little active strip here which controls all your aircon settings. It looks really nice and neat, but it's also exactly where you rest your hand when you want to play with Apple CarPlay. So you are forever accidentally activating the air conditioning or turning it off or turning the demister on full blast without really meaning to. It's actually also a fairly frustrating way to activate your aircon, because the only way to do it is to turn something off. That activates the screen, then you can choose whichever settings you want, and then you need to remember to turn that thing back on. The screen sits there for a moment, locking you out of Apple CarPlay, etc., before finally disappearing and you're back to normal. It would actually be a lot quicker and easier if you just had a little dial. Now, one other interesting quirk is that all of the car's features are hidden in this screen. So if we're driving, for example, and we have Apple CarPlay on, and you want to decide to put your seat heaters on, you then need to hit the Haval button to go back to the car settings, then hit the vehicle settings, then scroll down to car and seat settings, then turn the driver seat heater on, the passenger seat heater on, then home out, hit the Apple CarPlay, and you're back to your normal screen. Now that is a very long and convoluted way just to turn a seat heater on. So yes, there are some quirks that take some getting used to, but it is also undeniably a well-equipped and premium feeling space, especially considering the price point. The Jolion doesn't just look bigger, but it feels bigger too, especially here in the back seat where you can genuinely go 3 riders across in comfort, owing in no small part to the fact that there's no real tunnel here, so there's plenty of leg room for everybody. Happily, the niceties from up front also make their way back here with some nice materials. There's bottle holders in each of the doors, air vents, twin USB charge points, There's 2 cup holders and a pull down divider here, 2 more for up front riders, and it's a nice, comfortable place to spend time. There's also 2 ISOFIX attachment points, 1 in each window seat in the back. Step around to the boot and you'll find plenty of usable space there too. With these rear seats in place, you'll find 430 litres of luggage space on offer, but with them folded flat, that grows to 1,133 litres. The heart of the Haval Jolion is this 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol, which makes 110 kilowatts and 220 newton meters. Now it's also strictly a front wheel drive affair, meaning power is sent to the front wheels via a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. Haval reckons you'll sip 8.1 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle, though we've seen higher numbers than that on test. Happily though, the 55 litre fuel tank accepts the cheapest 91 RON fuel, which is always good news in this world of sky-high petrol prices. It is a strong safety story here right across the Jolion range, with plenty of high-tech safety stuff included. But there are a couple of things I find a little odd, and one of them is this massive box here is actually a driver monitoring system, a camera that's supposed to detect whether you're getting tired or fatigued behind the wheel. But it's not that understated, is it? It almost feels like you're being live streamed somewhere. Honestly, there are times when you find yourself singing along in the car, then you catch a glimpse of this thing and you can't help but quieten down, just in case someone's giggling at the other end. Elsewhere though, you'll find 6 airbags, hill descent control, hill start assist, a tyre pressure monitor, rear parking sensors, a 360-degree reversing camera, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning with AEB and pedestrian and cyclist detection, blind spot monitoring. Really, the list goes on and on. It's not yet been ANCAP tested, but really full marks for throwing plenty at the standard safety offering. And there's more kudos here, folks, with the Haval Jolion backed by a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, 5 years of roadside assistance, and 5 years of cap price servicing. Speaking of which, your first service is due in 10,000 kilometres, after which it swaps to a 15,000 kilometre 12-month interval. Expect to pay $1,550 over the first 5 years. Now, how much fun you have behind the wheel of the Haval Jolion really depends on where you drive it and how you drive it. If yours is mostly a city life and you're willing to keep your inputs gentle enough, then it's a mostly smooth, comforting, familiar drive experience, not too dissimilar to most of the mainstream players in the small SUV space. The steering is fairly light, the car feels easy to maneuver, it's not overly difficult to park, but you also get plenty of backseat space for cargo, passengers, family, whatever, and plenty of boot room as well. So in that sense, it's a pretty good compromise between a bigger SUV and something that's easy to drive and park in the city. Now, the further you get from town though, or the harder you drive this vehicle, the more kind of quirks do begin to appear. One of them is that it's quite a busy drive experience. When you go uphill, for example, the gearbox never really seems certain about what gear to go into. It always drops quite low and delivers a kind of surge of power without you really adding that much in the way of acceleration. So it does take a bit of getting used to, and gentle inputs are key. But the gearbox is always kind of shifting around. It never really seems certain of what gear it wants to be in. Equally, if you're going uphill and you put your foot down, you'll find there's plenty of wheel spin too, again without applying that much throttle. It's the way the power comes from that turbocharged engine. There's nothing and then everything all at once. And so that takes some getting used to as well. But perhaps the biggest quirk, and the one that I have found really annoying, is the active cruise control. I've racked up plenty of highway and freeway kilometres in this thing, and most of that was over double demerit periods where active cruise control is definitely your friend. But this one is quite quirky, to say the least. It kind of phantom brakes if you're going around a corner, or if it thinks there's a car too close to you in the other lane, or just because it feels like it, suddenly washing off speed, and you can find yourself going from 110 to 100 to 95 at the drop of a hat. Now, honestly, I've just left it switched off. I found it too annoying to deal with. So it could be smoother, it could be calmer, and the power delivery could certainly be more linear. And I think it could benefit from an Australian tune in the suspension as well. But as I said, if you are mostly in the city, if you keep your driving inputs nice and calm and gentle, and if you're willing to spend a little bit of time to get used to this vehicle's quirks, then the price point has got to be pretty tempting. Sure, it's got its quirks, but there's still quite a lot to like about the Haval Jolion, especially when you consider its price point, the length of its warranty, and of course, its extensive safety features list. Now, have you hit subscribe yet? If you don't, you'll miss a video and you'll never forgive yourself. And make sure you check out carsguide.com.au to get the full skinny on thousands of new cars.